Thank you, David, for inviting me. This is a very important information for you because these are things that you need to know as soon as you get to a four-year institution, particularly if you're planning to go on to graduate or professional schools. So if I've given you all handouts, and they're fairly small, but feel free to contact me if you would like an electronic version, and David also has a version. So as David said, please, if you have any questions, note them down, and we'll leave 15 minutes at the end for questions and answers. Now, this is a lot of information. I normally do this in 2 hours or more, and it's going to be overwhelming. So just feel free to take in as much as you can. Go to as many of these sessions as you possibly can, because you learn and retain information differently depending where you are in the application process, where you are in the day of time of day, etc. So also feel free to contact me or come visit me at 1228 Murphy Hall here in at UCLA. Even if you're not planning to come to UCLA, or if you just have questions about making the funding plans for graduate school. So I understand that most of you or all of you are looking for a doctorate, a PhD in the social sciences. Is there any other objective, like master's or PhD in the STEM field, professional doctorates? Okay, yes. What are you looking at?
Neuroscience?
Neuroscience, okay. Anybody going for a PhD in the sciences, if you ever paid for your education, you're doing something wrong. But what I want you to know about, there's also a lot of funding out there for PhDs in the social sciences, so don't be despaired. So nothing else, if you don't learn anything else today, I want you to tap these 4 takeaways. So 1, you need to apply early. You apply at the same time as you're applying to graduate school. For the 2018-19 cycle, all the extramural, the outside agencies funding deadlines were in fall 2017. So if you're looking to go to graduate or professional school in 2019, you would be applying in fall 2018. Don't worry that you don't know where you're going. You do have an idea of where you're applying, and that is what you would what you would mention in your applications. But agencies know that many applicants, particularly those coming from undergrad or gap years, don't necessarily have an idea of where they want to go, but they're funding you as a potential scholar, potential researcher. So again, don't wait until you've been accepted. If you do, then you will have lost 1 year of funding. Third, there is no one list of fellowships. People ask, okay, I'm a non-traditional mother, student, I'm a mother returning, what can I apply for? Or I'm applying for an RN or a PhD in nursing, what's out there? There is no one list of fellowships. The list is as idiosyncratic as each of you in this room. It depends on your degree objective, on you, how old you are, your sex or your gender sometimes, your field of study, how long you have been in grad school, if you have, say, a master's degree, and then you're moving on to the PhD. So it's all very idiosyncratic. Excuse me, I have this chronic cough, and I'm trying not to cough on you too much. So this presentation is not an end-all, be-all, but rather, ideally, I'm giving you tips and information of how to start looking for funding. And then my mantra, apply for anything and everything for which you are eligible for as long as you are eligible. And I'll repeat that. Apply for anything and everything for which you are eligible for as long as you are eligible. Don't worry if an agency says, oh, you can't have 2 major awards, or the feds say you can't have 2 federal awards, or you can't have this. Worry about all of that after you get the funding. Sometimes you're able to work with the agencies and people like me in my office or the counterpart at your institution to prepare a budget to submit to the multiple agencies to say, okay, your funding is going to cover my tuition and fees, and your funding is going to cover my insurance, my rent, etc. If you're eligible, if you apply and don't get it, you get honorable mention or second place or alternate or wait list, whatever they call it, and you're eligible to apply again, do so. There is no do not apply list. Agencies are in place to fund you for graduate and professional school. So don't think, well, I didn't get it, they definitely don't want me. No, it could be a whole different review cycle, the next cycle, and you may have just been up against very competitive applicants in the time you applied the first time. So make sure you apply and apply. Some agencies give you feedback automatically. Excuse me. Take it and use it. Some agencies give you feedback upon request. Some agencies don't give you feedback. They don't have the personnel. But whatever it is, make sure you take that feedback and you're reapplying. If you do get honorable mention, wait list, or whatever, don't make the reviewers have to read that in your CV. Put in your proposal, needn't be a very long statement. Just say, I was a Ford Fellow honorable mention in the last cycle. I am now reapplying. So that says, oh, okay, so she came close, and now we need to look at her and see how well she's done in the next. So part of knowing what to do for funding is also knowing the vocabulary. So part of what I'm doing today is to give you the vocabulary, and I'll ask you some questions. So there are two basic types of funding for graduate and professional school. One is merit and one is need-based. Okay, Bill and Melinda Gates, the gazillionaires, they're never going to get any need-based funding, but they could very much get merit-based funding. The terminology for merit-based funding is usually in three categories. Fellowships, scholarships, and grants. Does anyone have an idea what the difference is among the three, if there are any, if there is a difference? And I'm not talking about the Pell Grant or the Cal Grant. Yes?
I would suppose that the grants have stricter requirements.
Okay.
And then scholarships have stricter ones, and then fellowships have the most strict requirements.
Okay, that's a possibility. Anyone else? I know it's Saturday noon. Yeah.
Fellowships, you're maybe be working with the organization, and following their guidelines for what they want. Scholarships is more bringing, like, you're just using this money to go to school. And grants, I have no idea.
Grants, I have no idea. Okay, yes?
I'm sorry. I was going to add on to that, like grants are going to be like, let's say from the government to give you money to do research.
Grants are from government, okay. And fellowships are working with an agency, scholarships are more free range. It's kind of a trick question because they're all sources of funding. Usually, however, and this is not categorically, fellowships are for graduate study and professional study. Scholarships are for undergrad, and they're also funding you as an individual rather than your research or your academic project. And grants, again, not the Pell Grant, not the Cal Grant, grants are usually project-based. So you may get paid on a grant because a faculty member has a grant and there's a line item in the budget that I need graduate assistants to help me with my research project. However, that being said, I administer several scholarships in my office that are for graduate and professional students. Grants, the Fulbright U.S. Student Program and the Fulbright Hayes Program are two very prestigious research and study abroad programs that you all should consider when you're applying to grad school and while you're in grad school. And their funding, even though they give it to you flat out as a stipend, they're called grants. So the key takeaway from all of this is don't not look at something because you think, oh, that's not for me. Look at anything and everything that has some kind of funding for your graduate and professional school studies. It could just be project-based, it could be just you as an individual. Maybe you are a child of immigrant farm workers, or you can hop on one foot and run a hula hoop around your waist. Those are all kinds of different funding options, so be sure to look at them. They come from a variety of ways. They come from the university to which you're applying, so definitely look at the campus-wide competitions. Here at UCLA, it's from the graduate division. Other institutions call it graduate studies, graduate school, whatever the terminology is. Make sure you're looking not just at the department or program to which you're applying, but also the campus-wide. And then also the extramural, the outside the walls in Latin. These are agencies that are private, that are state and federal. And they offer you funding for any institution as long as it is accredited. Also, how many of you belong to the National Professional Organization in your respective field? Nobody yet. Okay, so ideally after today, you're going to really consider joining, and I'll tell you about the benefits in a minute. And then other merit-based funding on campus are teaching and research assistantships that are department-based, but not necessarily just your department. So I'll go into that a little later. Then, of course, there's the need-based. These are loans. In my field, when we hear financial aid, we think of loans, but what I do and what my colleagues do is called financial support. Again, a very fine distinction, but some vocabulary. So if you do go to an office like mine and you ask for financial aid, ideally my staff and my colleagues and student workers won't send you right downstairs to the financial aid office, but you should be asking for not just financial aid, but anything to help you with your grad studies. Because to me, financial aid means loans. And there are loans that you should be considering for, again, apply for anything and everything for which you're eligible, and that includes loans. And there is work study available for grad study. And here at UCLA, you should check the other institutions to which you're applying. You should see if they also have graduate work study, because it's much more robust than what you may be used to as an undergrad. And then, of course, the student loans, and they're not terrible. They're better than putting your education on a credit card, and I'll talk in a little bit more detail about those. So going more detail about the merit-based support, fellowships, scholarships, and grants, they provide stipends and/or fees and tuition. So here's another pop quiz. What do you think the difference is between these two payment sources, the salary and the stipend? Yeah.
One is taxable,
One is taxable, which one?
the salary.
Salary is taxable, okay. How about the stipend? Yes, ma'am.
So like some stipends are also taxable.
How so? Some stipends are also taxable. How so?
I mean, I don't know, because I'm on a stipend for research and I'm being taxed.
You're being taxed. Are you being taxed automatically?
Yeah,
You are.
yeah.
That's interesting. Okay. Are you an international student?
No.
No. Okay. Anyone else want to take a gander? That's the taxing is one of the two major differences. So salaries are taxed. You work and then you get paid every week, every 2 weeks, every month, depending on the payroll schedule. Taxes are automatically taken out. Any international students in the audience? Okay, so that's you have a whole different thing in terms of you might get taxed, you're taxed on your salary, but you also may be taxed on your stipends because unless your country has a tax treaty with the United States, Uncle Sam loves to just grab money wherever it can. And so it takes money from the international students' stipends as well. Now, if you do have a tax treaty, your country has a tax treaty with the US, then you won't be taxed here, but you may be taxed at home, so be aware of that. So back to the salary. Salaries are automatically taxed. Stipends, as the young ladies say, are subject to taxation. I express surprise that she's being taxed automatically because usually stipends are not taxed automatically, but you still are responsible for reporting your income, the stipend, as wages. You will not get a W-2 form. You will get maybe at the most something unofficial from the university that says, or you can go onto your bar account, your billing and accounts receivable account to look for information about the money that you have earned as a fellowship. But it is your responsibility to provide that information when you are preparing your taxes. So they are subject to taxation, so make sure you keep track of all of your documentation about the awards and about what you have been given as a stipend, as maybe housing as part of your summer research experience, etc. Another difference between salary and stipend is stipends are usually paid at the beginning of the project. If you're taking part in a summer research project, for example, you'll be getting half of your stipend at the beginning of the summer and the other half pending successful completion of the program. Salaries, as I said before, you work and then you get paid every week, every 2 weeks, every month. So you have to budget, particularly if you're getting multiple sources of funding. Maybe you'll get a fellowship one year that comes with a stipend and you're getting this wonderful big amount. Like one of our fellowships We pay quarterly, because UCLA is in the quarter system, so our awardees get $8,000 every quarter. But then the second year of funding, it's a job, it's a teaching assistantship, and they may only get paid $1,000 pre-taxes every other week. So you have to learn how to budget and know that you have to budget differently. Fellowship, scholarships, and grants, either 1 year or multi-year. Ideally, you're going for a multi-year because that is what grad school is. Now, if you're going for a master's program, that's 1 year. Even more reason to do your research and to do your application as you're applying to grad school. But doctoral programs, particularly in the social sciences, are anywhere from 5 to 10 to 12 years. So don't panic. You'll love what you're doing, so you won't even notice the time going by. But you need to plan for how you're going to fund all those years of work. And awardees must maintain satisfactory academic progress, e.g. a 3.0 or better. So in grad school, a 3.0 is the minimum. If you get a C in grad school, then you should really, that's almost a failing grade. You should really rethink about what you're doing and to see if maybe this is the time for you. So there's no need to go to graduate or professional school right after you finish your undergrad. You can take a gap year or 4. I did, because I didn't know what I wanted to do. You need to be really impassioned and enthralled with what you're planning to do for graduate school, because it does take such a big chunk of time. Plus, life happens. You may get married, you may have kids, you may have to take care of your parents or siblings. There's going to be a lot coming at you, and if you don't have that wherewithal to withstand graduate school, then this is not the time for you. So one thing that's really great about American higher education, there's no age limit. I've worked in summer programs where I had a 72-year-old as an undergrad, and she went on later to get her master's. So, I mean, there's no set time that you need to do it. So just do it when it's right for you. So maintaining satisfactory academic progress also means more than grades. Are you meeting the academic milestones of your department? When you start a graduate or professional program, usually you're given a handbook, and that is your Bible, your guide for what you need to do throughout the program. Even if they change the rules and policies in subsequent years, you keep that handbook because that is what you have agreed to. So if you're not taking the courses in the proper order, you're not advancing to candidacy, your faculty could have a reason to say you're not making satisfactory academic progress, and they could stop funding you. For example, many of you, particularly in the STEM field, science, technology, engineering, and math, will be funded fully. They'll say, oh, we'll fund you throughout your whole academic degree, and usually that's only 5 years in the sciences. But that funding mostly is in the form of a teaching assistantship or a research assistantship. So you're working, it's a great experience, but you're not doing necessarily, you don't have your time 100% to yourself. So if you're not making proper progress in the field, in the program, the faculty, even though they give you a letter at admission saying, we're gonna fund you fully, somewhere in there is pending satisfactory academic progress. And if you're not meeting the benchmarks, they could say, I'm not gonna fund you. And then that's happened. I've had a student in the neuroscience actually, who called me in his 5th year saying that he lost his financial support. And I said, well, why didn't you come to any of my sessions? And he goes, because I had full funding. And then I said, well, okay, you're kind of in a hard time because most of the funding in doctoral programs is available at the beginning of your program and then at the dissertation stage. So at the in-between is really kind of difficult to find funding. So anyway, he said that he lost his funding because his faculty who was supporting him didn't think he was making satisfactory progress. He was an international student. He wasn't meeting the American standards of being not aggressive, but assertive and finding out what needed to be done. He was waiting to be told, and that didn't sit well with the faculty members, and so he lost his funding. So another reason for you to get outside funding, even if your faculty or your department says we'll fully fund you, take whatever you can, and then that way you are able, more flexible, to have funding your own, particularly in the beginning, if you're coming from a semester system to a quarter system, if you're coming from a Hispanic serving institution to a predominantly white institution, there's so many cultural and academic cultural differences that are coming at you. You want to give yourself as much of a cushion as possible to say, okay, my department is giving me a TA-ship, but teaching is a lot of work. It's more than the 20 hours they hire you for. So you want to say, okay, I have my own money, I'll TA, thank you, later. It's, just being polite, and it's something you have much more of a bargaining chip. Also, awardees must be registered and enrolled full-time. Full-time differs depending on the institution, so make sure you find out what is full-time. Here at UCLA, full-time for undergrads is 12 units, but full-time for grads is 8 units. At my alma mater, full-time was 4 units, and that was 1 course, 1 unit. It was really easy, I like that. But find out what your full-time is at the institution that you will be attending. Because life happens, sometimes you will need to go half-time or take a leave or withdraw. Note that if you're not currently enrolled and registered, you risk losing your funding. And that's going to be even more of a shock, particularly if you have to leave because you need to have take care of a family member who's very ill and they have medical bills. So there are ways to get exceptions, but just note that that's something that you may lose. Now, extramural fellowships are called portable extramural fellowships. So what do you think that means? And there's a hint on the screen.
So it's awarded to you, and then you as an individual can use it whatever college you are in, so it's not awarded to the college, and then the college hires you.
Exactly. So here's another vocabulary. College does not offer graduate degrees for the most part. So university. So if you're looking at universities versus colleges, universities are the ones that are going to be offering the master's and the doctorate degree. However, my alma mater is a college and it offers a master's degree in the summer. So, everything I say, there's not set in stone, but just so you have another idea of vocabulary, particularly when you're looking for jobs later on. So yes, portable means it's awarded to you to use at any institution that is accredited. Sometimes you may be even able to use it internationally, not necessarily here in the US. But it does mean that you, even if it's paid to the institution, it is paid to the institution on your behalf. So the institution cannot use it for anyone but you. So what's the benefit of getting portable extramural? So not only, as I said earlier, does it give you more flexibility in terms of not necessarily having to work for your funding in your first few years of graduate professional school. Also, say you get turned down from your number 1 or you get waitlisted from your number 1 institution because, let me back up, you're applying for graduate and professional schools at the same time as you're applying for funding, right? October, November, December. You're going to hear your admissions decision January through February. You're not going to hear from your extramural funding until at the earliest February, right? So what happens if you get turned down or waitlisted from your number 1 institution, and then in February, Ford Foundation says, oh, we're going to make you a Ford Fellow.
What is the issue?
What is the issue? Well, you got turned down. So say you wanted to go to Michigan. You really want to go to the anthropology department in Michigan, but they turned you down in March. In April, you hear that Ford says they will give you a 3-year fellowship, $25,000 full fees and tuition.
So you can appeal the application and then inform them that you already have funding. So that way the institution doesn't have to provide you funding, and that's kind of like an extra bonus for you.
You must have come to my presentations before, but that's exactly right. You call the institution, you call the admissions office, department, and you say, you turned me down, you waitlisted me, but now I'm coming with my own funding. And usually like the Ford or the Fulbright, these are prestigious awards. So now you're not just Jane Doe coming to Michigan to study anthro, you're now a Fulbright, you're a Ford Fellow choosing anthropology at Michigan, because faculty apply to these very same institutions for their research. I get calls in my office often from faculty who say, how many National Science Foundation fellows do we have? How many Hertz fellows do we have? Because I'm applying and I wanted to tell them that UCLA is a good place to put your money for faculty research because you're already putting your money there for student support. So it's a very good bargaining chip. And particularly if you're going to this CC2 PhD, you're in a very premier program to prepare you for grad school. So you definitely want to tout that. You're a valued commodity, so to speak, okay? So you definitely want to make sure that the admissions committee, one, knows that you're applying for funding at the same time as you're applying for admission. Not many students do that. All too often throughout the summer, I get students coming to my office saying, oh, I just got into UCLA for fall 2018, now where's the money? And I have to say, it's all gone, right? Because you didn't apply. Only thing that's left is teaching or research. So if you tell the admissions committee in your statement, I'm also looking for funding, that just makes you a little bit more competitive than the person who isn't looking. So yes, if you get funding and you call your number one institution that turned you down or waitlisted you and say you have your own money. So tax information, as I said, stipends are subject to taxation, so it is your responsibility as a very good, proactive graduate professional student to know what your tax liability is. If you're not good with money or you don't have a tax preparer in your social network or your familial network, there is what I call the bedtime reading, IRS publication 970, which talks all about government type, 8-point type that you can't read and it's boring, it's all get out. But it does talk to you about what the liability is for your stipends from a fellowship and scholarship. Also, there's a group called Volunteer Income Tax Assistance. They are sanctioned by the IRS. They are set up across the nation, and they often come to campuses during tax season, and they prepare and they give free information and help you file. Now, not always are they familiar with fellowships and scholarships, so if you do make an appointment with VITA for fellowship information, make sure you ask, do you have experience working with grad students? And then you can make estimated tax payments. That's another bedtime reading, IRS publication 505, because sometimes you need to make these quarterly estimated payments and not just wait until tax day, because if you do, then you might owe even more money. It's kind of crazy. And then of course the international students, check the International Center on your campus because they often will give tax information throughout the tax season. So moving on to national professional organizations, all of you should consider joining, even as undergrads, even before you get through your undergraduate experience. It's a great experience. Membership for students is relatively inexpensive, and you get all these perks. You receive the premier publications in your field so that you'll be up to date on the research, the cutting edge research. Wonderful, wonderful networking opportunities when you go to the conferences. Of course, you don't need to be a member to go to a conference, and you don't need to present in order to go to the conference. You can just go to soak up the atmosphere. But membership registration is cheaper for those who are members. And this is a great way to network with finding out which is a good program for you to go to. When you're going to grad school, you're no longer looking at the institution, you're looking much more narrow. You're looking at the department or the program. So you're not coming to UCLA, you're coming to neuroscience at UCLA, English, or you're going to Michigan for anthro, or you're going to NYU for education. So you really need to do much more in-depth work. So how do you find out who's doing what? Again, you're not looking at the institution, you're looking at now who is there to help you. So you need to find out the faculty that are doing the research or doing the work that you want to do. How do you do that? Well, you talk to your current faculty, but also at these conferences, you go and you start looking at faculty and talking to them, buying them a cup of coffee, say, I read your article on, or I heard your presentation on, may I buy you a cup of coffee, and talk about your program. I'm interested in going, and you have to give them, hopefully you're going to be learning about the 2-minute elevator speech to talk about your research or your interest in going to grad school. And then you're going to ask the faculty, are you going on sabbatical? Because you definitely don't want to apply to a program where the person you want to work with won't be there, because that will definitely not let you in, because they're not going to want you to just wait around for a year. Or the person is moving to another institution. Oh, let me back up. That's another reason to go for these portable extramurals. Graduate school is all about the relationship, or the success in graduate and professional school is all about the relationship between you and your faculty. If your faculty is stolen by another institution and you only have funding from the campus or the department, then you're kind of in a hard place, because you need to go with that person who really is the person with whom you want to work, or you could try to find someone else at that institution in that department, but then you have to restart your work. But if you have a portable extramural, you could take your money, as I say, take your marbles and go play elsewhere. Okay, so that's another reason to get look for outside money. So going back to your faculty you're looking for, you're going to interview them, ask them how many committees, dissertation committees have you chaired? How much money are you bringing in? Do you have a grant? Do you have a training grant? This is money given to faculty, well, they write a grant for, and they have money from National Institutes of Health, National Science Foundation, Ford, to train graduate students. So they have money to hire you as a grad student researcher, and you need to find out who they are and where they are. Then also you need to talk to current graduate students. We administrators and faculty and IT people do a wonderful job of making wonderful websites and brochures and all that, but that isn't telling you what it's like to really be a graduate or professional student in that field. So you need to talk to current grad students. If you're going on campus visits, make sure you arrange to talk to current grad students away from administrators and faculty, so they can tell you the real deal, all right? They are the best publicists for that program. And then last but not least, if you belong to a national professional organization, many have funding for their members. It could be something as small as conference travel, hotels, airfare, but also for research, and some have full-out fellowships. Okay, so other funding, merit-based funding on campus is, like I said, the teaching and research assistantships that are in the department. But not just your department. If you speak a language that is taught at the university, go to that department to see if they need additional TAs. If you have an expertise, say your undergrad major was English, and now you're in Comp Lit, well, go to the English department at the institution where you're applying, where you're attending, to see if they need any other additional TAs. Don't get hurt if they say, well, we only hire honor students, or we only hire doctoral students if you're a master's student. So, okay, thank you, and move on to the other. If you have good writing skills in English, check out to see if there are good of their writing centers at the institution. Here at UCLA, we have the Graduate Writing Center, the Undergraduate Writing Center, and the Scholarship Resource Center. All three hire graduate students to help other students, undergrads and grads, with various writing. If you're looking to do research and you're going to what they call a Research One institution, look at the centers and institutes that are at that institution. Here at UCLA, here I have 2 URLs that list various centers and institutes, many of which don't have enough or any grad students to help them conduct their research. So again, you're being proactive, you're being a good grad student, making your opportunity, you're going to find out what's being done and where, and you're going to present yourself as a potential grad researcher. Similarly, TA, like I said, if you have teaching, if you speak a language that is taught, you have expertise or undergrad in a major that needs TAs. Here at UCLA, we have the TA marketplace. Once you're a student, you can sign up for that. And then check for the institution to see if there are any benefits coming with these titles. Here in the University of California system, the grad student researcher, the teaching assistant, the reader, the tutor, these are all called academic apprentice titles, and they come with what we call fee remissions. So if you are hired 10 hours a week or more for the entire term, then you get most of your fees and tuition covered. So check out that possibility for institutions where you are planning to go. Now, need-based support, again, we don't want you to have loans, but better to have an educational loan than putting on your credit card. So definitely consider work study. Here at UCLA and other campuses, they have a priority deadline for filing your FAFSA, the free application for federal student aid. Even if you don't want any loans or any more loans, again, apply for anything and everything that will help fund you. So better to have and not need than to need and not have. So here at UCLA, the priority deadline is March 2nd. If you file your FAFSA by the March 2nd deadline and you're eligible, you could be eligible for work study. And as I mentioned earlier, the graduate work study is much more robust than what you may be used to as an undergrad. And then you check this for any other institution. Not many institutions have it, so be sure to ask. But here it's, for the academic year, you're eligible for up to $10,000. And during the summer, if you're taking summer classes, you're eligible for up to $5,000. And the work study job can be anything related to your degree. It doesn't have to be a job already posted. It could be a teaching assistantship, it could be a research assistantship, it could be an internship, and it could be used off campus as long as it's related to your degree. So make sure you find out. Now, loans, if you do have loans, know about the loan repayment and loan forgiveness programs. So for example, if you think you might want to teach at a Cal State and you're going for a doctorate anywhere in the US, you should consider applying for the California State University Chancellor's Doctoral Incentive Program. This is a program where if you find a campus, one of the 23 Cal States, where it's likely there'll be a faculty opening by the time you finish your degree. Now, this is not a guarantee of a job. I just want to diversify the applicant pool of faculty. So if you are awarded this funding, you'll be lent up to $10,000 a year for up to 3 years. And then for every year you teach full-time at the Cal State, they will forgive 20% of that loan. For every year you teach part-time, they will erase 10%. And that's what a loan forgiveness is. You promise to do something, a service, and they will forgive. They will erase. Loan repayment programs where the program actually repays your loan. So anyone here a Mellon Mays scholar or thinking about it? Mellon Mays is a private organization, the Mellon Foundation, that funds undergraduates and in preparation for them to go on to grad school. So you are engaged in 2 years of intensive research at your institution. And then when you go on to graduate school and later, they have a loan repayment program that you can access. They also have a funding program in conjunction with the Social Science Research Council. Yeah.
I've heard of it and I've thought of it. I haven't gone through the process of applying it.
Okay, well, at least you've heard of it and thought about it, so consider it. I don't know when one applies. I don't know if you need to be a junior or a rising junior, but do consider it. That's also McNair. If you're looking at undergrad here, if you're coming to a University of California and you're going into the sciences, there's UC Leeds, LEADS. So, there are unfortunately no more Gates Millennium scholars. They reach their max, and so they're not funding anybody. But these are undergraduate preparation programs for grad school, and they are a plus when I see them on your CV. So let me power through because I'm running out of time. So loan repayment programs here, if you're going into the health field or biosciences, the National Institutes of Health have several loan repayment programs, some of which will repay your undergrad loans. If you want to work for the federal government, the U.S. Office of Personnel Management has some loan repayment programs. Public service loan forgiveness is something, again, for if you're working as at a nonprofit. And then you make payments for the first 10 years, and then after that, the others are forgiven and repaid, or forgiven. Okay, so I'm going to power through, but again, feel free to contact me and you'll have the information about the application process. And this is where many students make mistakes. So you need to know about the deadlines, the characteristics of the funding agencies, how to apply primarily. Again, apply 1 year. Don't wait until you've been accepted. Many extramural agencies fund the early years of graduate studies, so if you are thinking about going to do a master's before a doctorate, note that some agencies may take that as your first 2 years of grad study and make you ineligible. However, other agencies, the clock restarts, so it all depends. So know the agency's mission and interest. So the Paul and Daisy Soros, and these are all listed at the end, are for new Americans. So they're talking about what does it mean to be a new American, what does the US Constitution, Bill of Rights mean to you. Ford Foundation is for bringing diversity into higher education, and you must have a career plan to be teaching at the college or university level. If you want to do K-12, then that's not Ford. National Science Foundation, which is open to the social sciences. They don't want anything that is medically related. They want to know about the social impact of your research. So those are some of the things that you need to know. What is the agency looking to fund? And you need to write your proposal to that interest. The review process, note that these are read by faculty. They're not employees of the agency. So why is that important? You need to write for an intelligent ignoramus, as one of the faculty here say. So it's not someone who's going to be in anthro, another social science. So you need to avoid acronyms, you need to avoid jargon. And then the point above that, make sure you're using the eligibility disciplines, those as described by the institute, by the agency, not the institution. So the mechanics, do you apply paper? Yes, in 2018, we're still using paper sometimes. Do you apply online, or do you do both? Do you apply directly, or do you have to go through another office? If you have to go through another office or two, that's just gonna delay the time. So you need to back out whatever the national deadline is, look to see what the campus deadline is. Do they want academic transcripts from all institutions, including community college, or just the one where you got your undergraduate degree? Do they want official or unofficial? Note that you have to make all of this information, you should gather all this information in maybe an Excel spreadsheet so that you have an idea of the applications you're applying to and the different parts of the application, so that you know when is it due, is it postmarked or received by? Can the letters of rec come directly to the agency, or do you have to submit them with your application? It's a lot of work. It's like working a part-time job or taking a full unit course. But it definitely is worth doing, because one, it's the experience you're going to need for whatever you do as a job. Whether you're going to be a professor, you're running your think tank, you're running a nonprofit, you're running a non-government organization, you're going to have to know how to identify funding sources and write a proposal or an essay that will be geared toward the best funding possibility. So you might as well get the experience now, start now, and you'll just get better along the way. Okay, so let me quickly move to some of the useful resources for you. So if you're interested in the University of California, this document describes all 10 campuses. I know Dave, you said don't be recruitment, but I want to at least open up to UC. This also talks about their summer research, so that's something you really should consider doing if you haven't already. Not just at the University of California, but anywhere. Google summer research for undergrads. Never pay for the research, look for where they pay you. So there are many that, most of the summer research is for the STEM fields, but some we used to have a grad division for the social sciences and humanities, but look to see what other institutions, I think Stanford has some programs. And it's a 6 to 8 to 10 week program giving you a live-in experience of being a grad student. And this, again, will make you more competitive as an applicant for grad and professional school. American Association of University Women has some funding in these selected fields listed there. The next two bullets are examples of professional organizations that have fellowships for their members. The DREAM Act application really isn't used for grad school, but some institutions like UCLA use it just to determine financial need for some of our financial needy based fellowships and scholarships. The AB 540, some like UCLA does have an AB 540 fellowship. Look at other institutions that might have that kind of funding. If you're an AB 540 student here in California, look to see what possibilities, and you're looking to go out of state, contact that institution to find out what information or what resources and what funding they might have for undocumented students there. If you're thinking of going to do your master's at or your undergrad at or transferring to a Cal State, definitely consider the Sally Casanova Pre-Doctoral Scholars Program. It is a stipended program. You apply as a senior, junior, or first-year master's student. You do research in your year at the campus, at your home campus, and then the following summer, you get a stipended research experience at any institution where you think you might want to go to grad school. And during your year as an undergrad, you get funding to join the professional organization or organizations. You and your faculty mentor get money to travel to go on campus visits. So it's a very well-kept secret in the Cal State system, but I'm trying to burst it open. Center for Craft, Creativity, and Design, one of the few sources I found for arts funding. If you're going into the Masters of Public Health and Health Policy Management, is Corus Boyd. Department of Energy Computation, that's for the physical sciences. Ford Foundation Pre-Doctoral, again, if you're looking to do a PhD in any field, almost any field, and you want to go into college and university teaching, and you're going to bring diversity writ large to the field. That's a 3-year funding package, $25,000 full fees and tuition. Here's the Fulbright Research and Study Abroad, GEM, if you're underrepresented and going into master's or PhDs in sciences. Fanning and John Hertz, Physical Science. Kirstein, Health Science. Zorab Liebman, any field, any degree objective, you just have to be at an institution that is eligible to nominate. Loose Scholars Study Abroad in Asia, Association of Social Workers, NIH. NSF is one of my favorites, the second URL there, NSF, GRFP. Again, they fund doctoral research, masters, and doctoral work in the social sciences as well. Again, that's 3 years of funding, 34,000 stipend, I believe, plus full fees and tuition, usable over 5 years. So you can get the Ford and the NSF. That's at least 6 years of funding. If you get a Coda Robles from, say, UCLA, that's a 4-year funding package. You have 10 years of funding, you're not even going to need it. Paul and Daisy Soros Fellowship for New Americans. New American, you are green card holder, U.S. citizen, but of parents who were not citizens who became citizens. All different kinds of ways. Again, it's 2 years of funding, $25,000, half the fees and tuition. AB 540 students are also eligible, DACA students are also eligible for the Soros and the Ford. The Yale University is not for funding just at Yale, but it's a good tool to look at how to start searching, when to start searching. Old-fashioned, this is really where I want you to start. Subscribe to 4 or 5 of these databases. Take the time to set up your profile. And then you'll get notifications of email of funding opportunities that are in your area. Use a different email address because you won't get spam, these are all valid, but you will get notifications, reminders. So someone set up fundingsheila@gmail.com. But be sure to use, of course, your real email address when you're applying. And then last but not least, old-fashioned books. They do still exist. Look at your campus library, your local public library for books like this. You see they are arranged by gender, by ethnicity, by disability, or nationality, Armenian, veteran, if you are a child of a vet, or if you are a military vet, or a spouse of a vet, or a descendant of a vet, there's funding out there for you. If you don't have, if you're international students, check out the funding for US or the list of grad scholars that don't require proof of citizenship. That's also for the AB 540 undocumented students, and then the bottom list of by discipline. Whew. So, all that being said, there's money out there for each and every one of you. It's just that you need to make and take the time to do the search. Start a study group or whatever. Don't put it off, because yes, as a graduating senior, when you get there, you're going to have a lot to do. You're going to be looking for, you're going to be studying for and taking the standardized tests in your field. You're going to be making campus visits. You're going to be applying to grad schools. It's a lot. Ideally, you're also going to be writing an honors thesis rather than an exam, because that will show the grad schools that you have an ability to write academically. So, but do take the time to apply. So, All that being said, do you have any questions in the next 10 minutes? And I'm also available afterwards.
I actually have 3 questions.
Okay.
First one, how do you follow stolen faculty to their next institutions?
How do you follow stolen faculty? Well, that's a very good thing. Like I say, you follow them one of 2 ways. You just go without money. But if you have your own funding, that probably means that you are a valued student of that faculty, and you have to make an admission application to that new institution. But usually there's some kind of an agreement worked out whereby we really want Professor X, and she has this student who's coming in with Ford money, so we'll make it work.
My next question is, do these national professional organizations accept community college students, or do we have to wait until we're a 4-year institution?
Okay, the question is, do these national professional organizations take community college students, or do you have to wait until you're 4-year? No, you can apply now.
Okay. And my last question is there summer research programs for community college students that they accept? Like, we don't have to wait until we're here.
Are there summer research programs for community college students? You know, there's a lot more out there for community college students than is led to believe. So everything about grad admissions and grant funding, my initial response is it depends. So yes, you need to look and see what the requirements are. Some will just say the equivalent of sophomore standing, or some will say you must be a junior, but it all depends. So, you know, Google or Yahoo search, whatever you do, summer undergraduate research, and then start looking for the funding. And deadlines are probably coming up now if you're looking at summer 2018, so I would start searching, but thank you for those questions. Yes?
Do most fellowships and stipends also cover cost of living?
Do most fellowships and stipends cover cost of living? Probably not, because particularly if you're living in an expensive city like LA. So, like I say, the Ford Foundations is a $25,000 stipend, and that's spread out over either 12 months or 9. So what is that? Who's got the math? If it's 12 months, that's only $2,000 a month, and that's before taxes. It's not taxed. So this is why you need to really look for fellowships and funding that also cover the bulk of, if not all, tuition and fees. So the Ford and all these extramurals, most of them do cover tuition and fees. Or if you come to UCLA, we also have a way, if it doesn't cover full tuition and fees, we in the graduate division work with your department to cover the balance. So again, that's research you need to do to find out, or to ask those questions. If you can't find it, make sure you ask the question, what's the funding availability? Now, if you go to a teeny tiny town in Oshkosh, Nebraska, that might cover. And that's another thing, when you're looking for a grad and professional school, don't hesitate. If you can, if you're able to leave California, I know, I'm from New York City, so I know Californians are hard to leave, either southern or northern. They think the big move is to go south to north or north to south. No. Get out of the state. If you want to come back, that's fine. Particularly if you're looking at social issues, ethnic issues, you really should look at other cities, Philadelphia, Miami, Chicago, New York, just to get a sense of what's out there. And it's always possible to come back. But most fellowships and stipends don't cover really all living expenses. You're going to have to be really frugal, particularly if you have a family or dependents.
Like most of these fellowships and grants you're talking about, it's more for graduates, right? Well, how to prepare in order for us to get these fundings for graduates. But like, is there any course right now where, you know, it's from, let's say, the NIH, but it's for us right now as an undergrad?
Good question. Is there money out there for undergrads? Yes, actually. If you go back and look on slide 18, the third from the bottom, the Scholarship Center, UCLA, that's the Scholarship Resource Center here at UCLA. You don't need to be a UCLA student to use that source. It does talk about options for undergrads. The NIH, the federal money, is primarily going to be available to you indirectly. In other words, a faculty member would have a research grant and they would hire you on it. Or they would have a summer research program. But definitely start looking at the Scholarship Center, UCLA, to look at, they have a zillion databases. Unfortunately, you need to be a UCLA student to actually go there, but you don't need to be a UCLA student to use and it's a free resource. So I would avoid the thing, there's a fastweb.com, you may have heard of that. It's very popular, but I hear that it gives incorrect information. But look at, what is out here, collegescholarships.org, ProFellow, Unigo. Start looking for now. And again, if you're currently a sophomore and looking to transfer, that would be even better if you would be able to transfer with your own money. Yes?
I know you should never put all your eggs in one basket. So from your experience or your recommendation, what would you say, how many schools would you need to apply to for grad school? If you know you want like two, or you only want like two, but what would you recommend?
That's a hard question. The question is, what's the right amount of schools to apply to for grad or professional school? That's really going to be up to you. Now, some counselors will say, shoot for the moon, have a safety, and then go for the middle. I don't know. There is no set answer. However, when you are applying to grad and professional schools, make sure you ask about admissions application fee waivers. Many schools offer that. They'll either have it right there on their admissions website or within the application, or you can call their office and they'll explain it. Standardized test scores also have application fee waivers depending on, often it's you're currently on financial aid and we just need a letter from your financial aid office. UCLA, if you were a Cal State pre-doc, that's Sally Casanova, if you're a McNair scholar, some other institutions that will help you. Another summer program that you apply for, but I highly recommend for all of you in the social sciences, Institute for the Recruitment of Teachers is not on here. Again, Institute for the Recruitment of Teachers, it's I believe a 4-week program in the summer at No, Massachusetts, but yeah, I used to go, and oh my goodness, one of the premier private high schools, not Choate, whatever, Institute for the Recruitment of Teachers. It's a very good program. They work you through a very rigorous set of classes and research to prepare you for graduate school. And that's one of the programs that we waive at the fee application. And it's for social science as well. So Institute for the Recruitment, and I can't believe I've forgotten. Andover, thank you, yes. And it's a wonderful part of New England. You should all visit New England. Okay, we've got 2 minutes. You know everything about funding? Yes.
It's to recruit teachers, that's not just for people who want to be teachers.
Correct, I know. It's not just for those who want to be teachers. It's a misnomer. It's for those who want to go graduate school. But it's we used to go UCLA as a recruitment. It just was a very expensive trip, and not many East Coasters wanted to come west, so we didn't get many students coming. So fiscally, it wasn't a benefit, and so my supervisor said, no, we're not going to do it anymore. But I think Berkeley does. And it's also recruitment, so you get to go with any other, you get to visit, talk with many other universities. Also, the California Forum for Diversity in Graduate Education. If you haven't heard of that, I believe it's open to community colleges. I'm not, I think, I can find out, email me, let me know, but that's a all-day graduate prep program at various campuses in November. It was at Cal State Channel Islands, and this coming April is going to be up north. And it's free for you to attend, but again, you get about 200 recruiters coming there because they know that this is for a very good pool of diverse student applications. Yes?
I wonder if this question necessarily pertains as much to funding, but more so in terms of attending graduate school. If you want to apply to the same institution that you attended for undergrad, this question's kind of already been answered
Is it a good idea to attend the same institution for grad school that you did as an undergrad? And again, my answer is it depends. Some urban lore has it that many institutions don't want their undergrads as grad students, and I don't find that to be true. But it really depends on who's doing the work you want to do, if that's the best place. Now, the benefit of going to a different institution for a graduate school is that you'll get a different sense. So you'll have more of a breadth of the field. And also, you don't need to major, or we don't have majors in grad school, but you don't need to be in the same discipline for grad school as you were as an undergrad. You could do law, and you don't have to be a poli-sci major. They want English majors or science majors. You could do psychology as an undergrad and then do anthro as a grad. If you're looking to do ethnic studies research or American studies, don't just look for those departments. Look at anthro, geography, sociology, urban planning, all that kind of. This is where it's also good to go to the conferences, because you'll get a sense of who's doing the work you want to do, and then that will determine what department or program you're applying for. So in response to your question, is it good to go to the same institution? I personally would recommend that you branch out, but you don't have to. It all depends on if the faculty should be supporting you at least 3 ways: academically, financially. If they don't have grants, at least they can help you write good letters of rec for your own funding, and then professionally help you get published or internships or ideally jobs down the line. So that's it for my time. Again, I'm always open to any students who, you don't have to be at UCLA. If you're in the area, feel free to stop by. I'm in the office, or anybody in my office can help. We're there Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. Email, phone call. Again, I'll be hanging around a little bit during your lunch break. Thank you so much for inviting me. I really had a pleasure and look forward to working with you, and good luck getting your money.